There's something inherently unsettling about working the night shift. When the sun goes down and the rest of the world falls asleep, the atmosphere changes. The silence becomes heavy, and every small creak of a building starts to sound like a footstep. Most of the time, it's just your imagination playing tricks on you. But sometimes, you're not as alone as you think. Tonight, we're diving into 3 supposedly true horror stories from people who worked the graveyard shift and saw things they can't explain. Welcome back to the Midnight Files. Story 1, The Man in the Blue Sedan. Our first story comes from a viewer who worked at a 24-hour gas station on the outskirts of a small town in Oregon. I was 19 at the time, working the 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. shift. It was a dead-end job, but it paid well enough for a college student. This station was isolated, surrounded by woods on 3 sides. Around 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, a rusted blue sedan pulled up to the pump furthest from the windows. A man got out, but he didn't pump gas. He just stood there, staring at the shop window. I felt that prickle on the back of my neck. I kept my head down, pretending to organize the cigarette racks. 10 minutes passed. He hadn't moved. Finally, he walked inside. He was wearing a heavy trench coat, completely out of place for a warm July night. He walked to the back of the store, grabbed a single bottle of water, and came to the counter. He didn't look at me. He looked at my name tag. He whispered, "You're late today, Marcus." My blood ran cold. My name isn't Marcus. The guy who worked the shift before me was named Marcus. I told him he had the wrong person. He just smiled, a wide, toothy grin that didn't reach his eyes, paid with a crumpled $5 bill, and left. I watched him get back in his car, but he didn't drive away. He sat there with his headlights off, facing the store. For 3 hours, he just sat there. I called my manager, but he didn't pick up. I was too scared to call the police over someone just sitting in a parking lot. When the sun started to rise at 6 a.m., he finally started his engine and drove off. When Marcus arrived for his shift, I told him about the guy. Marcus turned pale. He told me that a man in a blue sedan had been following him home for a week, and he had called out of the night shift specifically to avoid him. The man wasn't looking for Marcus that night. He was checking to see if Marcus had told anyone. I quit that job the next day. I still see blue sedans in my rearview mirror and wonder if he's still looking. Story 2. The 3rd floor janitor. Working maintenance in a massive office building can be peaceful until you realize you're the only one with a key to a room that's suddenly occupied. I worked as a night janitor for a high-rise tech company downtown. My job was simple: clean floors 1 through 5. The 3rd floor was always the easiest because it was mostly storage and empty cubicles. One night, around 2 a.m., I was buffing the floors on the 3rd floor. The building used motion sensor lights to save energy. As I moved down the hallway, the lights would click on ahead of me and click off behind me. I was halfway through the hall when the lights at the very end, near the break room, suddenly flickered on. I stopped. There shouldn't have been anyone there. I assumed it was a glitch. I shouted, "Hello?" No answer. Just the hum of the vending machines. I walked toward the break room to check. As I got closer, I heard a sound that made my heart skip a beat. The sound of someone typing. Fast. Click, 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 click. I peeked around the corner. In the corner of the dark break room, one of the computer terminals was on. The blue light illuminated a figure sitting there. It looked like a woman in a gray suit. Her back was to me. She was typing furiously. I cleared my throat. "Excuse me, ma'am. The building is closed." She didn't stop. She didn't even flinch. I took a step closer, and that's when I noticed something impossible. Her hands weren't touching the keyboard. They were hovering a few inches above it, and the keys were moving on their own. I didn't stay to investigate. I bolted for the stairs. I told the security guard at the front desk. We went back up together with his flashlight. The break room was pitch black. The computer was off. But when the guard touched the monitor, it was burning hot. There was a single piece of paper in the printer tray. It was a list of names. My name was at the very bottom, dated for that night. I never went back to the third floor again. Story 3. The Uninvited Guest. Our final story takes us to a lonely shipping warehouse where the no trespassing signs aren't always enough to keep people out. I was a night watchman for a logistics company. My job was to sit in a small booth and check the CCTV cameras every 15 minutes. One rainy Tuesday, camera 7, which covered the back loading dock, started flickering. I saw a shape move behind some crates. It looked human. I grabbed my flashlight and radio and headed out. The warehouse was massive and full of shadows. I reached the loading dock and shined my light around. "Security, come out now!" I yelled. Nothing, just the sound of rain hitting the metal roof. I was about to head back when I saw it. A small wooden chair had been placed right in the middle of the loading dock. It wasn't there during my 1 a.m. rounds. On the chair was a small, hand-drawn map of the warehouse, with a red X marking exactly where I was standing. Suddenly, I heard a heavy metallic thud from above. I looked up. On top of a stack of shipping containers, about 20 feet up, a man was crouching. He was wearing a mask, one of those cheap plastic theater masks. He was holding a crowbar. He didn't scream. He didn't run. He just started laughing. A low, wheezing laugh that echoed through the entire warehouse. I didn't engage. I ran back to the security booth and locked the door, calling 911 immediately. While I was on the phone, I looked at the monitors. The man was standing right outside my booth, staring directly into the camera lens. He took the crowbar and slowly started tapping on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The police arrived in 6 minutes, but he was gone. They searched the warehouse and found a sleeping bag and food wrappers hidden inside one of the hollowed-out crates. He had been living there for weeks, watching me every single night. The scariest part? The police found a small hole drilled into the back of my security booth, right at head level. He hadn't just been watching the cameras. He had been watching me from inches away while I sat in that chair. Working the night shift changes you. You start to realize that the dark isn't just an absence of light. It's a place for people who don't want to be found. If you have a night shift story, share it in the comments below. We might feature it in a future episode. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Midnight Files to keep the lantern burning. Stay safe out there. And remember, watch your back.